unfamiliar path with a pulse of its own.
3, 2, 1.
Final Encounter Cast. Interesting conflicts, not conflicts of interest.
Typical corporate bullshit.
With your hosts, Nate, Robbie, Chris, Nika, and Callie. FinalEncounterCast.com.
Ready? Get set? Go!
Hey, what's up? Welcome to Final Encounter Cast. Thanks for joining us, twitch.tv/Final Encounter Cast. We appreciate having you along. My beard's starting to come back in. Feeling a little bit more confident about myself.
You can still kind of see the chin.
I know.
The baby face.
Yeah.
You mean the double chin?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. That's really only from certain camera angles. I feel like I'm obscuring it enough with the microphone.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm definitely the only one who has to suffer it.
I mean,
That's not true. I can definitely see it over here.
I'm past the point of needing the therapy beard.
That's good.
I think that's helpful, right? That's a step in the right direction.
That was sad.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, twitch.tv/Final Encounter Cast. Glad to have you along. Got a lot to talk about. We are missing a Callie because...
That guy's an idiot.
Yeah, he's dumb. We didn't want him here. We told him to just go away.
You're fired.
We don't like him no more.
Screw that guy.
No, we're kidding. He was busy on the Extra Life stream, holding it down over at twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. This year we're doing, pretty concerted effort for Extra Life, but doing it in a way where each of us can kind of contribute on our own time. And I just want to congratulate so far Robbie, Nika, and Callie on their efforts for Extra Life, raising over $7,100 for Team Limit Break Radio. Also notable in their Strife as well has been putting up the dollars. We're glad to have you on our team. Thank you so much, guys. It has been an amazing effort to raise money for kids with cancer, and it can be kind of humbling when you see that kind of a number to go, oh shit, like I forgot people gave a shit about things anymore. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, no, like, have you ever had your faith in the world shaken to a point
definitely,
where you're like, I don't know, I feel like I can't predict people anymore? Mm-hmm. I feel like, dude, that's where I've been there for a while.
Chris helped too.
No.
He raised $200.
Yeah, I'm on there too. I got a t-shirt.
I mean...
Yeah, he's wearing it.
See?
I'm just congratulating the people that did the most work.
I mean, that's fair, I guess.
Was that t-shirt from this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is this year's shirt. I've got mine on too.
How crap. That means that my address must not be set to where I am now, and that shirt probably went somewhere else.
Oh, well, did you like put in the code to redeem it?
Oh, then no. Okay, I guess I have to
You have to redeem it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
check your email.
So anyway, thank you to everyone who's given over at extra-life.org/team/Limit Break Radio. We really appreciate it. I honestly, I'm really humbled by the effort. And congratulations to you guys. You guys did awesome pulling this together. Nika was the one who kind of spearheaded and organized the whole thing.
Per usual.
Yeah, as per usual. as you know, like that's the thing is that in a startup company that's within its first, couple of years, like we spent this Limit Break Radio was a hobby. We turned it into a business. And then, that takes some time to make all of those different puzzle pieces shake out. And I think we're starting to get some clarity about where the path forward is, not just for Limit Break Radio as a company, but all of our other associated brands, Final Encounter Cast, Checkpoint, and this was one of our first big steps. So, there's always a period of sort of shaking out where we're testing each other and figuring out where, where we're going to be the most useful. And Nika has always done a great job organizing our Extra Life efforts. And so that just, listen, this is a long way of me saying that there's going to be way more work for you next year. Because it's going to be, it's going to be way more organized.
Okay, but to be fair,
here's
relying
the
on
thing.
her once a year, that's not bad.
Yeah, I know.
I can handle it.
A clock, a broken clock is right at least twice a day. So
Once a year in Nika's
a broken
case.
Nika is,
Thank you so much.
works sometimes once a year. No, we're kidding.
The clock doesn't work at all. Like if it doesn't work, then it doesn't turn on. How do you see the time?
How do you break every analogy that I make? I make nuanced analogies, very clever things, and then you come in and you just shit all over them.
Because they don't make any sense.
No, that made perfect
With today's
sense.
generation,
That made perfect sense.
nobody knows what an analog clock is anymore.
God damn it. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We appreciate having you along. We invite your calls. Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. Before we get into the news here today, one quick announcement about a bit of a programming change that we're going to be seeing here on the channel. And that is that...
We're going down to 1 hour a week.
No. Here's the thing: is that there was a lot of questions asked about since we're taking an hour out of Limit Break Radio, are we going to be able to make up that hour anywhere else? And we've identified a place, a bit of a dead spot in our our weekly broadcast that happen on Sunday. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be presenting the video on demand version of the Checkpoint Radio podcast in between Final Encountercast and Limit Break Radio. So what we hope is that you guys will stick with the channel and kind of the psychology at work there. It's a bit of a programming strategy that TV and radio has used for a while. It's called tent polling. We have a popular show over at Final Encountercast. We have a popular show over at Limit Break Radio. So in between the two, we're going to put the program that we want more people to watch, and hopefully the audience carryover will happen in between Final Encountercast and Limit Break Radio. Because if it's just music, that's something, but it's not that entertaining. So we're gonna fix that. So we're gonna every week on Wednesday we're gonna be broadcasting live the Checkpoint Radio podcast, and then we're gonna be taking that and we're gonna be bringing it over here on Sunday. So if you maybe miss the broadcast over at twitch.tv/Checkpoint Radio, it gives you an opportunity to catch up here, and then you can go follow whenever you feel like it's important to you. So that's what we're going to be doing. We hope that it creates a bit more of a cohesive schedule on Sundays, and that it's a more of a cogent product.
Well, it's going to be now a 7-hour uninterrupted broadcast, basically, between FEC, the Checkpoint podcast, LBR, then the Checkpoint show itself.
And some of that, some degree of that, comes out of the little bit of freedom that we've freed up in not having to do that third hour of Limit Break Radio. So we are looking at ways of taking, what we were doing, the work that we were doing with that third hour, and making it more productive.
So in reality, by taking away that hour, we're actually giving you more content.
Well, we're giving
That's the EA approach. You don't have to pay for it.
We're giving you more cohesive content. And I think we hung on to that third hour probably way longer than we should have.
Yeah, probably.
For you.
Probably for me. Yeah, I was the last one. I was the last defender of that third hour. You guys have been talking about bringing, and not to lay, I'm not trying to lay blame, okay, before anyone jumps all over me about that. I'm not trying to lay blame here, but
I was always for nixing that third hour from the moment we went weekly. And we actually said we were going to do that, but it never happened.
I know, it never did. I think,
Yeah, we got her.
I mean, honestly, like, one of the things that's difficult about doing a podcast, especially with so many people, is that you want to be able to allow time for all the participants' opinions. We started working in callers. Then the third hour became a little bit more necessary. It's like, we were doing... When we started the FF14 version of the show, we were doing, the big long sessions, and then we would cut it up,
chopping it up. Yeah.
And then as we kind of made the shift towards weekly, we were also making the shift towards live and working in live elements because the Patreon allowed us to do so many things at once. And I think we maybe got a little bit overwhelmed. And didn't the path forward wasn't as clear. So anyway, I think that's just my very roundabout way of saying that things are going to change, but we hope for the better. And if you're like me, I get it. I'm a person who's a little bit adverse to change. If you're like me, it's going to seem a little bit scary, but I think you're going to adjust to it in the end.
So scary.
Hey, dude. I'm
afraid.
We'll talk about this here in a minute.
I handled it okay.
A big change of one less hour.
Here's the thing. I do want to talk about this, and we'll get into the news here in just a second. But after the news, I mean, like, I've been working some shit out, and I need to explain some things about my behavior to the audience. I've been working through some pretty serious depression, and the good news is that I think I'm to the other side of it. Hopefully that's not just the mania.
Hopefully he's not just in the eye of the storm where he's like, oh, all right, it's nice and calm here. Good, we're all done.
Sometimes it feels like that, but no,
you're telling us,
dude. I think I've been working some shit out. So I think we're gonna get into that a little bit after the news. But if you want to give us a call, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. We'd love to hear from you. Kookie's standing by to take your calls. She'll be passing you along to us. We've got no intern in the studio this week, no Callie. So we're a little bit shorthanded, but it's okay because we've got super duper producer Kookie, who is standing by to take your calls. So we do invite your calls, Final Encountercast.
About anything, by
on
the way.
Skype, 810
Literally anything.
Literally anything. If you hear a news story that you want to talk about, if you want to talk about my depression and how you noticed it way before I did, that's fine. That's probably what we're going to be talking about here in a minute. So
if there's a news story that we maybe don't touch on that you want to hear our opinions about, call in and let us know.
That too.
If you want to be touched by the news, go ahead and call us about that.
I mean, if you want to be touched by the news, just call CNN because they're reporting a lot on people touching each other.
They can hook you. They can hook you.
No, they want to be touched by the news.
Oh,
like have the news come in there and
like fondle them,
do finger things.
So they want the Harvey Weinstein treatment, but just from the news.
Yeah.
All right.
From like Annie Rooney.
All right, listen, prepare your ear holes because we're going to fondle them. Here comes Final Encountercast News.
I'm here to do the news tonight.
And that's the way the news goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program to bring you important news.
Here's a story that's out of this world.
So for the holidays this year, Cards Against Humanity decided it was high time to save America. They ran a $15 special where they'd send you 6 unknown surprises, and the money went towards them purchasing a plot of land at the U.S.-Mexican border. In addition, they've retained a law firm specializing in eminent domain cases to make building the wall as difficult as possible. The special sold out promptly.
I think that...
Yeah, I wish I had paid more attention to it. Like, I clicked on the site, and I didn't realize you could actually buy a piece of it, and I didn't, and I really wish I would have.
I kind of wish that I had too. I mean, we could have, put Limit Break Radio branding on it.
Yeah, like, I had the website open so early in the morning, I was like, no, this can't be real, and I just kind of, clicked past it.
Okay, hold on.
I didn't realize I could actually buy something.
Do you remember the company that let you buy actual horse shit?
Oh, yeah.
But no, this isn't real.
I mean, there's a lot of companies like that. You can send people you don't like a bag of dicks. I don't know. Why'd you all stop talking? Why'd you all stop talking?
I mean,
as if we're not the show. As if we're not the show that had the intern deep throat the fucking dildo at our after party.
God damn it, Skuro!
Eat my dick!
Why do you do this to us?
I mean. What? I made it weird.
That was so vulgar.
I made it weird.
I can't believe you, Nate. Oh my gosh, sending someone a bag of dicks.
I mean, what? You know what?
Oh my lord!
Can I just? I'm gonna
his
be
virgin ears.
I'm gonna be real honest for a second. I think we're all really used to Joe being here every single week because he would have jumped all over that.
He'd have jumped all over them dicks.
He would have.
Actually, you know what?
Does anyone get it?
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yeah, easy.
I
don't get it.
I made a joke about how he likes to have penises in his butthole.
Oh.
I give it a 10.
Sometimes.
Gay!
Allegedly.
But did you guys see the Air Force pilot that drew the giant penis in the sky?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
What?
Dude, can I just say thank you, pilot, whoever you are who did that. Because that made my entire day. I was having a really bad day. I was having a really bad day.
You know he got punished for it.
Why?
Because that is apparently not becoming of an Air Force pilot, and someone complained that what if her kids would have seen that? She would have had to explain it to them.
Oh, really? Oh,
because her kids don't have one?
You would have had to explain that what? Genitals exist? For fuck's sake, parent your fucking kids and stop complaining about people who just want to have fun.
Yeah, but technically, there are no laws that say you can't draw a penis in the sky. So,
holy shit.
I don't think he should have gotten
you know, what? Should the kid who drew the gigantic penis on his parents' house in paint, should he have been arrested too? I mean, that was arguably a much more graphic penis. But should he have been held to some kind of consequence?
Arrested. They didn't say what the consequences were. Just that he.
But that's what I'm saying. Listen, I'm just saying. Like, did he endanger someone while doing it? No.
Probably not. No.
Okay. Then
that's still vandalism.
Then listen.
On the sky.
Listen.
I was talking about the other guy, the kid.
Listen, whatever 16-year-old mom that had a baby that way too soon in life that doesn't have any context for how to actually talk to that fucking baby as a person. Now that they're asking questions about things like dicks being drawn in the sky, you need to understand what kind of responsibility you have in this equation. You're fucking it up.
Yeah, talk about the dicks.
Dicks are not hard to talk about. Dicks and vaginas are just a fucking fact of life. Why is this hard? Where suddenly are we finding this prudish behavior where we can't talk about fucking anatomy? God damn it. Communicate, people.
Maybe she was upset that the dick wasn't drawn properly.
Okay.
He was in a plane. What do you expect?
Listen, well, I mean, if you can't do a good dick, why dick at all?
Listen, I guess that's a slightly different point. That her quibble with it was that it wasn't anatomically.
How am I gonna explain it wasn't poorly drawn dick in the sky to my child?
It wasn't anatomically correct enough to meet the criteria of her to be able to explain it properly to whatever her retarded kid was.
Stupid babies.
Stupid kids.
Illumination Entertainment, who made movies like Minions and Despicable Me, are in talks with Nintendo to create a Mario movie. While negotiations are nearly complete, the major sticking point has been Nintendo's desire to be heavily involved in the creative process. Understandable, considering Mario's last attempt at getting into a movie was amazing!
No, it was not.
It was
oh my
fucking
God.
amazing.
Seriously?
Fuck you.
Okay,
Fuck
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Don't be shitty.
Yeah.
It was the best movie ever.
Listen, that was the only movie that I think Bob Hoskins openly regretted. You know, Bob Hoskins actually struggled with alcoholism, and I think Mario Brothers movie was the reason why.
Well, it was ahead of its time, okay?
You know, him and John Leguizamo were constantly drunk on the set.
That doesn't surprise me.
Constantly drunk.
I love John Leguizamo.
Listen,
would you not be?
I'm just saying. Listen, for whatever you want to think of the Mario Brothers movie, it helped kill Bob Hoskins, and you have to hold people accountable to their actions.
Awesome!
The latest patch for FIFA seems fairly small, but it actually fixes a pretty big exploit. Players discovered that you could trick the AI into fouling you by shielding the ball in the corner and thus getting their best players kicked out of the game. This made for easy wins in squad battles and hence better rewards. The exploit is now fixed across all platforms.
There you go.
Who added this to our outline?
I don't know.
How? I don't understand how that ends up being a problem, though.
Yeah, that is a fairly major oversight.
And if you were one of the people like taking advantage of that, fuck you.
Here's the thing. Like, I recently realized, right, like about DLC, one of the promises about DLC was the ability to patch your game. What we didn't see was this like secondhand market that was a direct pipeline to the developers. Like the way that DLC and now loot boxes really take advantage of it because they do prey on all your instincts to gamble, right? Like if you have a predilection towards gambling, dude, loot boxes 100%.
Okay,
prey on that.
Except I've heard from the ESRB that loot boxes are not considered gambling.
And this is hang on, this is let me contextualize this. This is actually why this is now dangerous, because I think the ESRB has lost sight of the industry that it's regulating, and there's going to be a pretty serious conversation at some point when everything starts to slow down and this becomes a topic of conversation. Battlefront 2 may put it there. Like the fact that they tried to put the Star Wars logo on it may actually have muddied the water. EA may have stepped in it deeper than they really realize, because because the ESRB is asleep at the wheel. That now means that some higher body like the FTC has to get involved. And I think what the ESRB has forgotten is the fact that they were a self-created body. They are not a government agency. Mm-hmm. The government doesn't forget that. But guess what? Your consumer base does. We as gamers forget that it's not a government body, that's an industry self-regulation. And it's inefficient now. Loot boxes tell me that the ESRB is asleep at the wheel. They understand the problem of violence, and they've come up with a really good system to address it. And there is now a systemic problem if they don't see loot boxes as gambling. I would, if I were a part of the ESRB, walk that decision back as fast as humanly possible before this becomes an issue, and I'm talking widespread issue in major media.
And this is the danger that comes along with that. If the FTC decides, all right, we have to get involved now, we're going to come in and run the ESRB for you, if you think they're going to stop just at the loot box debacle and not go through with a complete overhaul of the system, you're kidding yourself. Now
you have the government having a door into having input on content. Let me repeat myself. If that goes through, now you have a way for the government, whether you agree with the current government or not, the current administration or not, that opens the door for the government to come in and have an ability to comment and therefore influence content that appears in video games. Okay? That has been something that we have protected for a long time. And the ESRB was forward thinking enough to be able to do it at the time it was created. If they don't change their tune soon, it is going to spell disaster for the wider gaming industry. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I've been right about enough stuff where I feel confident in putting it. Confident enough to put it out there as an idea. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think EA has lost sight of the fact that this could go very, very badly. And all you need to do is point to Battlefront 1 and the way that blew up in EA's face. And the fact that they're trying to do something as predatory and potentially blurs the line and distinction between gambling as loot boxes does in Battlefront 2 has sounded the alarm inside the gaming community, and we're speaking up against it. And this this is the truth of it, is that it will have unseen, unforeseen consequences.
Mm-hmm.
If we get the FTC involved, if we think it's serious enough to get on the FTC, to get involved with this, and they will, because everyone knows Star Wars. It's an easy point of context. It's an easy point of common context. Then we risk having the government have way more input on the way that video games are crafted. And I think that is a seriously scary proposition.
Preach.
So I know that we're. I think I'm a little bit ahead of us. A little bit. Were we gonna double back around to the EA topic?
Oh yeah. As our topic today.
Fuck it. I just closed the EA topic.
All right,
there we go.
Rotten Tomatoes tried to keep Justice League's score a secret until release day, having selected it for their See It, Skip It show. On the show, their hosts debated and critiqued the movie before revealing the score at the end of the show. Justice League's score, however, leaked early thanks to the movie app, and most reviews have it as a resounding, it's okay.
No. I've heard
it was garbage.
I've seen it.
As have I.
The most ardent comic book movie apologists say, it's okay. And then the normal people that I know that went to see it said it is dog shit.
Was not as bad as
dog
Suicide
shit.
Squad. I know you heard that from someone. Characters were fine. The story was cliche. It was okay.
The story was just non-existent. It was just thrown in, like, felt very last minute as just a way to get everyone to come together for no reason. And
bad guys coming to destroy the earth.
I feel like I'm usually the kind of person that's like Stern tells me all the time that I'm not critical of things, and I like too many things that I should be more critical of. And even I walked out of this movie like, and even I walked out of this movie like, what did I just watch a movie?
See, yeah, and Nika, I think will contort herself into knots to find the positive in
I
anything.
Really do.
You really do, and I mean, again, it's not a criticism; it's just an observation.
I just felt like I watched a lot of nothing on, like nothing happened.
Well, because I think what Marvel mainly and Disney have done for us over the past few years has sort of up the bar a little bit. And Marvel obviously still has their duds, which is evident with Defenders, Iron Fist, Ant-Man, and stuff like that. But I still think
Ant-Man was good.
It was fine. I still think that they've raised the bar in what we expect from a superhero movie. And now that DC's finally done one that was okay,
but Marvel keeps it there. Like Marvel keeps the quality, especially in their film franchise.
Mm-hmm.
They keep the quality up enough, and I actually think I might be starting to see some of the method to the madness of the way that Marvel structures their stuff, because I think they have a farm team, and that farm team works mostly on their TV productions, and those have varying quality, right?
Yeah.
Like for a while they were all really good, because I think half of their A team was working on the TV stuff. Now, most of the A team has gone to the movie side. That's how you end up with like 15 good Marvel movies. They're not great movies. They're all consistently good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the TV shows, and the quality can vary. So I think that's where they're bringing in new talent to work on, the Marvel farm
that's
system,
a fair theory, yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So you have, you've got some really good clear visions like Daredevil, and then you've got some really, really cloudy, unclear visions like Iron Fist. But those people are kind of working it out.
Mm-hmm.
And Netflix is actually kind of the perfect platform to let that happen, because the success failure rate is a lot different than it was on television, and the hit that Netflix takes is in subscribers, and that is a much longer arc. That takes a much longer
You're
time.
not going to unsubscribe from Netflix because one bad show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but if the whole of Netflix's content starts to drag, then they start to lose subscribers.
Or, if Disney takes a bunch of your shows.
That too, or if Kevin Spacey decides he wants to try to touch a 14-year-old, like all of those things kind of have an impact in that ecosystem.
I'm glad I took all those child grabbing classes.
Wow. Have you been saving that one for a while? Like the next time there's a Spacey joke?
No, I've used that one before.
All right, okay.
On point.
Mm-hmm. 5 North American Heroes of the Storm players have made allegations against their organization for failing to pay their contracted salaries and tournament winnings. Naventic Esports was originally founded in January 2016 and attracted some high-caliber players with strong contract offers. Now players are alleging that Naventic owes its players over $50,000 in unpaid salary and winnings from DreamHack Summer.
Man, that's a bad look.
That's bad.
That's a bad look.
Yeah, maybe if you were playing a real MOBA, people would care.
That's a let me just say that's a really, really bad look, I think. Esports, with its growth opportunity that it has, if they let this shit kind of drag them down scandal after scandal, whether it's sexual misconduct or whether it's not paying their players, like that really hurts the credibility. And like consistency is what builds credibility. I think that is an important thing that not enough people recognize is that, we struggle with this sometimes too, where a couple of weeks ago we had a couple of episodes that didn't get uploaded on time. They didn't get fed to the RSS feed on time. And I think people, content creators, creative people like us, I think we tend to frame that as like, fuck it, they'll get it when they get it. And sometimes that's what has to happen. And we also lose sight of the fact that there is an exchange going on, right? Like there are, especially if there's money being changed hands in any way, there is some expectation that's set. So, when we do that and someone maybe pulls away from the Patreon, it's not surprising to us. Like that actually makes a whole lot of sense. We fucked that up. Like that the onus is on us. It's just, we hope that the people who fund us on Patreon understand that we're still, kind of growing and feeling this out and finding out what our space, not just in the frame of Twitch, or not just in the frame of podcasting, but now in the world of broadcast radio. We have to figure out what our place in that is. And that's really difficult. Like that's a really long, messy, difficult process. And shit, a lot of people have, like they're working so hard at it that they have no clarity, they have no vision, and they just work until
just trying to keep their head above water
until the thing falls apart. But I think what we've done between the Patreon and the way that we've kind of set up everything and taken a slow approach towards everything, and not done impulsive things like quit our jobs to be able to devote more time to this, Robbie.
I still work there.
I know.
Can you even call that working? How many days a week?
1 or 2.
1 or 2. How many hours?
4 to 8.
But that, what that is, and I think, and again, that's a sacrifice, right? Like people talk about the way that they sacrifice for something that they want to do. And I think that, we were all very, very smart when we started this back up and said, hey, like we need to be able to make sure that this is sustainable, whatever that means. And we've done that, and to varying degrees of success or not. And I think that that's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, and the problem is that was the in between. There wasn't no in between for me. I was a manager there, and because of the responsibilities that I had, I would not have been able to do Checkpoint at all, and I'd only be coming to maybe 1 or 2 LBR FECs a week.
Right.
So
a month.
A month. So by stepping down, this is what I have to deal with. I mean, I can beg and ask around for more hours and stuff like that, but they're just not there right now. So.
Right. Yeah, and again, this is sort of a continuum. Like we've had job changes too. Like I got fired from my job, and and I feel like suddenly like things are starting to fall into place, and with that, the path forward is becoming a whole lot more clear. And I think that's really exciting for what it means for the brand. But not everyone actually gets a chance to do that. And just to kind of bring this full circle back to what we were talking about with esports,
we're looking for our opportunity to not pay our players and salaries.
Well, no, but the bigger point that I was driving at is that Checkpoint is attached to esports, and we have a duty to keep people honest, right? We have a duty to report stories like this so that the credibility of esports as a whole doesn't continue to take hits. If this happens and then no one talks about it, if this happens and then we don't report on it, or
they get away with it,
or you guys don't talk about it, or we don't inspire you guys to talk more about it, nothing happens. Nothing happens because nobody knows that that's wrong.
They just go on not playing their players.
Dude, this is new shit for a lot of people. Like, we're starting to see video games and sports clash in a very real way. And what is so uncertain about that is which is going to win out more. And sports has been around for a long time. The sports industry has been around for a long time. And if the sports industry starts interfacing with the video game industry more than they do, in a more meaningful way than they already do, which is essentially just licensing teams out to different video games, then they're not going to want to do business. We have a responsibility to keep these fucking assholes in line and to keep a check on them so that this becomes an appealing and attractive thing for traditional, long-standing businesses, people who have the actual fucking money, come in and invest in. This has got to stop. This has got to stop. Fucking people need to make businesses that they know are sustainable. And this drives me crazy because the gaming industry has been infected by this unsustainable culture. Cliffy B nailed it back around just after E3, or maybe just before E3, where he said AAA gaming is fucking unsustainable, guys. It is. We're seeing it. We're seeing the effects now. And the consequences of having, basically no one in charge, like the ESRB or like some kind of overseeing body, that we've got to be a check on ourselves. And can we do that? How effectively can we do that?
Messy as it is.
There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of dissonance out there. And I'm not saying I've got the right opinion. I'm not saying that I'm correct. I'm just saying that I've got an opinion that I'm putting out there, and if it resonates with you, you can do something about it. Like, you have influence, you have pull in this, and it's how you use your money. We figured this out with $60 price tag games, man. We figured this out with like the way that the business was structured 10 years ago, and that's not where we've laid a very clear case for this. That's not where the money goes. That's not where the money is actually made. The money is now shifted into the DLC so that you don't have to get as many people to buy the boxed copy of the game to be able to make your money back. How do you deflate that? Stop participating in the market. Stop buying DLC.
Russia this week released what they called irrefutable proof that the U.S. had aided ISIS. The problem? The image they released is from a mobile game called AC-130 Gunship Simulator. Russia's official response to the incident was, mistakes happen.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
See, now, we had a similar story
thing I've ever heard.
earlier in the year where CNN had used a hacking image from Fallout, right?
Yeah, right.
That's one thing, because that was just an image to sort of, let the people know, hey, hacking is a thing.
But you know what? It worked. Like, some people people called it out.
True.
And then there were other people like us that were like, it doesn't really matter.
But
actually,
if
it kind of does, and this is why.
Exactly.
I was wrong on that one.
Exactly. If you want to start, flying it around like we have proof of something, you can't just Google image search proof.
Now here's the thing. Okay, so this was a Russian-presented news story.
Yep.
that used an image from a video game that said this is proof in real life that the U.S. is colluding with ISIS.
Yep.
It's just okay.
Think about that.
Wow.
First of all, so that is very clearly propaganda.
Yes.
Right? Like, can we all agree on that? That's
100%.
definitely propaganda.
Textbook.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, man. That's pretty spooky.
Considering that we may be able to identify, and even though it's out there now that it was, there are still people who saw that story, who then have seen the headline that it's from a video game, but who are still going to go, nope.
Nah.
Yeah, they would say that, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, but that's what the Alex Joneses of the world do.
God, it's fucking
Is they
terrifying.
constantly muddy the water so that you're confused and you don't know what the truth is.
I don't know what's more terrifying, the fact that there are people out there that works on, or that there are people who spread this knowing full well that, nah.
And I think, like in the grand scheme of things, because I had an interest in Alex Jones in the early 2000s as like I was interested in him in the media sense of what he was doing.
And what he accomplishes and how he accomplishes it.
Right. Because, I mean, InfoWars was something that had kind of spread among... Okay, let me try to explain this if I can. When I was growing up in the suburbs of Detroit, and I had a punk rock band, I got very... punk rock is kind of... inexorably linked with extreme political ideology. Some punk is connected to Nazism and white power. The brand of punk that I was into was the extreme left, the anarchism, the equality and expression. And it's interesting because for, while I was into it, it shaped a lot of my political beliefs. And a lot of them, thank God I was 16 years old and I couldn't do anything with any of those extreme political beliefs, because that's, I think, how it starts. We form those ideas in our teens or in our 20s, whenever we kind of get plugged into politics, and then we start kind of shaving away at the more extreme and rough-edged parts of those as time goes on, and we kind of reach a middle ground as we age. And again, this has nothing to do with a number, an age as a number, but this has everything to do with like
as a process,
the concept of maturity.
Yeah.
Right? So I was very radically left growing up. As a part of this, punk rock community. I had my own band, so I had my own opinions, and it was really formative for me to be able to put my opinions out there and have a group of people say, yeah, okay, yeah, I agree with that. Like, that is so psychologically helpful in being able to become a performer, right? Like, you need to find an audience. If you are constantly met with negativity or like, people trolling you or like not encouraging you, like that does have a real effect. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that you'll always get that. Like, it doesn't matter if the internet was a thing or not. You're always going to get the negative feedback, and it's really kind of how much you let it in and how much you want to let it affect you. In the case of Limit Break Radio, I think I became tuned in with that. So when we brought it back for FF14, it was like, okay, listen, you guys think that you have all the power as YouTube commenters, but no, we're going to show you that we have the mics, we have the power. Fuck you. If you don't like it, take your ball and go home, because this is what we're doing here. And that's kind of how we crafted our own middle ground, right? So, you have these two very polarized political extremes that people find when they're young. And because you're so young, and because those extremes are so extreme, you end up with people who can come in, take advantage of that, and really weave in some very, very dangerous ideas. And I felt that. I felt that in my involvement with punk rock. And that was part of the reason that I had to pull away. It was because there was just some shit that I was like, I'm not okay with that.
One of the major plot arcs in the new Punisher series explores that.
And that's the thing, is that, when people talk about, Antifa and all of that kind of stuff, it's a convenient name for a problem that I think is much more complex. And the thing is that a lot of times since it's coming from the extreme right, because it's coming from, the alt-right, I guess, is that, we tend to discount that opinion, right? But the reality is always somewhere in the middle. The reality is painted in grays. So, you've got these two political extremes, and the ideas are there, but the truth is somewhere in the middle. And now we have pretty much proof that this is going on. So you get a guy like Alex Jones, and the way that I first got kind of keyed into Alex Jones was through that punk rock radical left. And this is exactly the guy that I'm talking about that exploits this kind of extreme and this kind of division, because look at how much money he's made doing it. Ugh. Okay? And it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's unethical. And we see that. We see that now with kind of the response to Alex Jones. And you're playing with fire when you do that. And in a way, Limit Break Radio is a commentary on that, and is also a way for us to sort of play with that idea and go, okay, what's our version of that? And I know that this has been a pretty long story here, but, Russians using things like video game screenshots to be able to prove something really just kind of proves my overall point that you really have to do your homework. Still, in this internet age, your bullshit detector,
absolutely,
your filter is the thing that fucking matters.
Well, it's more important now than ever because literally anyone can put something out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the age of fake news.
A new PC MMO that draws inspiration from Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption is now in early access following a successful limited testing of the game. Wild West Online incorporates PvP combat and PvE missions with world exploration, resource gathering, and treasure hunts. The developer is a new studio, 612 Games, who have staff with backgrounds in games like Crysis and League of Legends.
I feel like I've heard about this game for fucking decades.
It's got such a generic name.
Maybe it's changed names so many times, but there was a while where I was like really following like, oh, what's the next big MMO, right?
Has there ever been a Wild West MMO? I mean, I know WildStar kind of had a little bit of like the aesthetic, but that was still like futuristic, right? Like
yeah. It was very much. I mean, it took as much from the Wild West as Firefly did. Okay. I mean, it's really kind of when you scratch at the surface, I think WildStar
was
is
Firefly
cartoon version of Firefly. Because I mean, they are making a Firefly online.
Okay, that's the one they've been making for fucking ever.
They have been making that forever.
That?
Yes.
They are. Yeah, that's a thing.
Okay.
That is still a thing.
It's gonna be junk.
I don't know, man. It could be either. It depends on how many times they've gone back to the drawing board.
I mean, the only reason like Firefly was any good at all was because of the characters, not because of the setting.
The setting was pretty cool, though.
Actually, I don't know. I think that long term, and this is probably like what held it up for so long is that there's a lot of people who are just like, that wouldn't work as a setting, but yet it works when it's Cowboy Bebop, it works when it's the TV show.
In fact, I feel like I remember.
I mean, it works across multiple points of media.
I feel like I remember an interview where Joss Whedon said that's what he ran into a lot, was people being like, no one wants to see space cowboys, it'll never work.
I mean, yeah, like it's still a concept that's a little bit ahead of its time, because in like 5 or 10 years, I think something's going to happen. Like it's one of those things that has remained oddly underground. Like they tried to go back to it with Serenity. That didn't work. It just seems like it is a smaller fan base. But if you can develop for that smaller fan base, obviously that would take a longer, longer time. But if you can develop for that fan base, we have seen fan bases be unreasonably loyal, which is why the nostalgia thing works.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Why does nostalgia work? It's because these are brands that hadn't been fucked by trying to nickel and dime you out of every bit of everything in your fucking wallet.
Yep.
I mean, at least when Hollywood used to do that, they would have to come up with an original idea first. Now, they're just recycling because they're, I don't know,
they can?
Creatively devoid. Now they just recycle fucking other media that they liked as a kid. Meanwhile, and this is interesting because this relates back to our conversation on Checkpoint that we had this week, is that, shows like Stranger Things and Future Man now are kind of taking that cultural tapestry that we've been weaving with all of these like different franchises that have now hurtled into the mainstream, whether it's Marvel or Transformers or DC. They've gone from smaller fan bases, underground fan bases, if you want to call them that. I mean, it sounds cooler, but it's a little disingenuous. You've taken these underground fan bases and pushed them into the mainstream
so that you can reuse all that content.
Right, exactly. But here's the thing is that there's a way to do it that won't make your audience feel dumb. And Stranger Things and Future Man does that.
They take inspiration instead of trying to recycle the entire thing.
Now, if you want to hear the other side of this opinion and then subsequently hear me yell at that opinion,
it's coming up.
That's coming up on the Checkpoint Radio podcast, which is ahead at 3:00 here on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio.
Him and Norris get down and dirty.
Yeah, that's the thing is that I think subconsciously, because we had already decided that this was going to fit in here, that this week's episode of the podcast is far more
about that than what it's actually about.
Well, no, I think it's far more like quintessentially us as people and presenters.
That's fair, yeah.
Like we're starting to find our feet in our comfort level with Checkpoint.
You and Norris have butted heads before, but it's usually been like, in like a Facebook chat where one of you is just like, fuck off. Whereas you really, it really came to a head in this podcast.
Yeah. So if you want to see the Clash of Titans go down, I am talking like 11 and Hopper, man.
Shit, yeah!
Who's 11? Who's Hopper?
You can find out if you listen. I don't know. No, we don't actually get into Stranger Things that much, but we roll it into the discussion.
Yep. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon dropped this week.
For 25 years, they've been growing babies and cows.
Thank you,
That's from Alex Jones.
I appreciate that, Alex Jones. Can you also maybe with another $10 donation explain how the frogs are gay?
Excuse me, if that's Alex Jones, he can afford way more than $10.
Okay, yeah. For $100,000, explain to me in a donation how frogs are gay, and maybe I might believe you.
Are we talking about like French people frogs or literal frogs and toads?
Why would frogs be a reference to French people?
Is it not?
It's not.
No, it totally is.
Are we making that a thing?
I
heard that Weird Al.
You're super racist.
They eat frog legs, but goddamn, that is some serious prejudice right there.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
We just stumbled on a new type of I don't think it's racism. I think that's technically xenophobia.
Right. There you go, xenophobia.
Which is fine. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, make America great again.
Okay.
And then screw Frenchies.
Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon.
Listen, man. Listen. Freedom fries were never a thing, and they're not going to be a new thing.
I'm just saying fries would be a lot more better with the freedom added in, and we just need to get rid of all the French underpinings.
Pokemon
underpining? What is an underpining?
What?
What is an underpining?
It's like when you go under the pine tree, but it's right next to the evergreen tree. You go underpining it.
Underpining.
Okay. Are you done?
I need to ask because I feel like our audience is going to have no clue.
As
I
you
thought it was,
I still have no clue.
I thought it was obvious. If you're, an intellectual like I am.
Well, you're a fucking asshole.
An asshole intellectual, yes.
Listen.
I'm basically Rick.
Listen, fat princess, all right? Just go shove some cake in your mouth.
Okay.
Cake sounds good,
Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon.
It doesn't really seem that Nate really cares about Ultra Sun and Moon, so we could probably just skip over it. I mean, you keep interrupting Mr. Robbie over there.
Can I use my mute, Chris?
Yep.
Thank you.
It's a mute Juxta.
Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon dropped this week, bringing an expanded story that delves into Necrozma, new Ultra Beasts, new villains in Team Rainbow Rocket, new Z moves, the Battle Agency, Move Tutors, and the Rotom Dex.
All right.
Excited about worthless garbage. You want this too?
So I played Pokemon Moon and I really, really enjoyed it, but why should I buy the Ultra version?
Okay, all right, okay.
Actually, if you actually enjoyed it, this shouldn't be too hard.
Then it shouldn't be too hard.
But what's the difference? I want to know why would I play the game again?
Now I understand why you would ask this question from a narrative, from a narrative standpoint.
Tacos for fat.
Fat fan club.
Oh
no!
Thank you, Fat Fan Club.
No, that's a bad thing because now there's every unpopular person has a fan club. So
Weird all for the win. Hashtag princess.
Weird all.
Well, hashtag mute Fat Princess.
It's Weird Al.
But he didn't. He said, "Oh yeah, it is Weird All on the donation." Yeah. Okay, so all right, convince you why you should play Pokemon Sun and Moon. If you enjoyed Sun and Moon, and I did, it took me a while. I didn't enjoy as much of the story, but I really did enjoy the end game, right? Like after you finish the story, and I did a lot of Battle Tree, I did a lot of Wi-Fi battling. I really got legitimately into Pokemon as a game because I think that turn-based battles are still valid, Nika. But
only on handheld
listen, shut up, Fat. You're muted. You're still in the timeout.
I can still talk loudly.
Yeah, you can, but it's obnoxious.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So let's get to the point. I am probably 2 or 3 hours into the story, and already, I mean, from the word go, I'm like, oh, the way that they're changing it is so clever that I think that's why they justify doing it. They had a strong idea of what they wanted to do. And I heard that the justification, the way that they explained it to the media, was that they felt like they didn't do the Alola region justice in Sun and Moon. And I actually think that is true.
What do they mean by that, though?
I think that Sun and Moon had problems, and I don't know what they are because I was overlooking a lot of them to continue playing because I enjoyed the actual game. But I think it did suffer from some narrative problems. And what they've done is they've found a way to both retell the story and add something new that is super clever and within the first 2 hours of the game presents itself. So it's the incentive is pretty clearly laid out. Like they thought a lot about why would someone want to buy this. And they made a risk. Pokemon definitely took a risk because their normal pattern of behavior is to not do sequels. But, the Black 2, White 2 things seem to work out pretty well. So
is this a sequel?
Nope. It's a retelling.
It's not.
See, that's the thing. Okay. They tried to do something new with the sequel, Black 2, White 2, right?
That was an actual sequel.
That was an actual sequel.
Okay.
This is a retelling of events, but in the most clever, in one of the more clever ways.
Are you playing the same character? Or
Yes.
You're the same character?
Yes.
It's kind of like a different timeline. Is that a good way to put it?
I figure it would be a different perspective or something.
No,
be a different character.
Think of it like a tangent universe. I know we're getting into some pretty heady things here, but think of it
what?
Think of it like a tangent universe. Like there's something that happens, and then the timeline changes,
Right.
And they don't
It's
ever
like Supergirl and the Flash. They exist in the same, like, different universes, but the same stuff's going on.
Someone at Game Freak is smart enough about the way that narratives are being constructed now to know, hey, we don't ever call it a tangent universe because too many people now know what that means, and it's technobabble. It has ceased to have meaning, and now it's just technobabble. Like, we know what it means, but we all now roll our eyes at it. But I think that's what's going on. They're using the rules of a tangent universe and telling the story within it. And it's smart. It's really smart. It's subtle and still obviously aimed at kids, but I think adults, and especially adults that picked up Sun and Moon in that Pokemon Go reinvigorating of the franchise, they know that adults are playing, and so it's sort of like, I feel like they brought in some writers that were working on SpongeBob or Phineas and Ferb that know how to write for kids but also know how to write for adults. It's smart, I'm telling you.
Most importantly, Nika, Lily needs help getting Nebby back in the fucking bag.
Hunt muffin.
Oh yeah, hang on, I forgot about that.
Thank you.
Okay, but that's the other thing is that it does all of the things that a second version of a Pokemon game in the generation naturally does, where you've got access to all of the legendaries. Is it kind of
like how there was blue and red, and then there was yellow?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
That's probably the best comparison.
Yeah, it's closer to a yellow or a crystal. Yes, yeah, it's closer to a crystal.
Kooky for princess instead of fat.
Oh, okay. Kooky can be the princess.
Okay. I don't know how we do that because she's not on screen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can be the princess.
Shut up.
You're not Kooky. Shut up.
You're not allowed.
Oh. Okay.
No, but I do think that what they've done here is really, really smart. And I like it a lot. Like, I'm having a lot of fun even in the opening hours of playing it.
Yeah, I picked it up this morning, so I only got to play for like an hour, and so I'm only probably about a half an hour into it because I did a bunch of trading and stuff to get my shinies in. And so far, the only thing that sticks out is as Nate said, there are a few things as I'm playing, I'm like, wait, did they change that? Like, it's subtle enough to where maybe they changed it, but maybe that's what it was like before. And then there's these two weird characters. I don't know what they are yet, but they look like Garleans.
Now, here, let me.
I'm just trying to figure out why I'd want to play the same story all over again.
It's because they put
it Nika. They just said it's not the same story.
It's not the same story.
This is why.
It's not the same.
This is why. Fringe.
It's the same setting.
Fringe.
Okay.
Same setting, same characters, different outcomes of everything.
Think of it like it's a Zelda game. Like, there's 8 different timelines for Zelda going on coherently.
No, that's not how Zelda works at all.
No, it's not.
Coherently.
Yeah, like a kokiri.
I get it. It was just bad.
And it was
That's also just
accidental.
not how Zelda works either.
There's 3 different timelines for Zelda, Nika.
Yeah, but they're not. Okay.
The end.
Anyway, so yeah, that I highly recommend. At least 3-4 hours into it, I highly recommend going out and playing it because I think it's a significant improvement on Sun and Moon.
Does it matter then? Would you recommend getting the same one you got before, or like getting the different one? Like if I
got
Moon
a different
before,
one,
should I get?
So when that question was posed to Game Freak, they said get the same one because you might notice more in jokes. But I got Ultra Moon when I had played Sun, and I'm noticing just as many little differences and funny things.
Yeah.
So.
If nothing else, Nika, if you actually loved Sun and Moon, unlike Chris, who was
this should be a no-brainer
about it, then I think that you would love this even more.
I really liked it. I didn't like how easy it was compared to previous Pokemon games.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that they address because the difficulty has definitely been increased.
Really?
Yeah, and the way that they.
Are you sure you're not just bad?
No, I'm.
No, because he's going through with like a battle team now.
Well, here's the thing: is like the way that they did it is sort of like what Square Enix does with the Echo in FF14, where now you have Rotom powers that will power up your entire team for a granted period of time.
I haven't got that far yet.
Yeah,
cool.
It's actually a really cool mechanic that is fun to play with, and
it sounds like it makes it easier.
I mean, it does, but it's totally optional. You can choose whether or not to use it or not. So you have the option to use it or not. I mean, it does make
But that doesn't address Nika's complaint of the moon, sun and moon being too easy.
Well,
okay, so
but I've gone back and played almost like all the previous Pokemon games. And they just like it's so hard that you get to the gym leaders and like you die because they're so much stronger than you.
But again,
and Sun and Moon, I didn't feel that challenge until after I'd beaten the game. And there were, like, a few monsters that were tough.
I think there's a couple of fundamental reasons why. Is because they threw the gym system out in favor of
the stupid totems.
Yeah, the totem system. They weren't sure how that was going to work, and they figured it out. They're a little bit more confident with it. I mean, listen, Game Freak does a lot of things that other gaming companies don't do. They're one of the last holdouts in terms of charging DLC or nickel and diming their audience. Part of that, I have to recognize, is a business, is how well Game Freak runs their business, right? Because the way that they have the entire thing structured is that they make so much money on their licensing, whether it's dolls or whether it's, toothbrushes or anime movies and the series, like all of that shit is licensed, so they get a cut of it, but they're not like and they have input on it, but they're not like direct
no production costs.
Yeah, they're not directly hiring through Game Freak to staff everything from the voice actors, right? Like they're farming some of that out. And what they did that was smart was they made a sustainable business model. And one that worked. They took a gamble. It became the biggest thing in the fucking world. And then they had the foresight to go, oh, well, listen, this is not going to stay the biggest thing in the world forever. We've got to squirrel that money away, save it for when this shit gets lean. I'm thinking like generation 4 and 5. Yeah, and then they're like, you know what? Everything old is new again. They understand trends. They understand how trends work. And they were like, listen, we're going to have that opportunity, but we've got to wait for the right time. And Pokemon Go was the right time. And that was that. I mean, listen, they got very lucky with it. Not everyone gets to do it, but somebody made some very smart business decisions, whether they knew it or not, whether it was their conscience or their gut. They made some very, very smart business decisions where they were like, listen, okay, we know that this is not going to be hot forever. Save enough money to get us through to the other side, and then hopefully that window is going to open. And it did as soon as smartphones became powerful enough to run Pokemon Go in a wide enough quantity. Like the technology democratized how Pokemon Go would be distributed. Because if you had done Pokemon Go 5 years earlier, it would have been the number of cell phones that would have been able to run that fucking app would have been this much. Like it would have been like half of what they are now.
Yeah.
This is a great example of like the wisdom of waiting for an idea's time to come. And whoever is making these decisions read the industry perfectly. And I think they should be applauded for that. And I think in the future, they're going to be studied for this period of time of how you are able to hold to a game design, not blow it down to its fundamentals, Final Fantasy, and be able to come out the other side and go, yeah, this is still the same fucking game, and now people care about it again, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, not every game series gets to do that. The way that they structure it is so unsustainable.
With turn-based combat, it's so yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
But it's on a handheld, so it makes sense.
But that's the gamble. Listen, that's the gamble that Square Enix took when they decided to remove something as fundamental as turn-based combat from their game. Right? Like, dude, this happens. Listen,
they did that with FF12. How long ago was that? That was a long
time ago. And now, listen, we've seen the quality slide happen because they're not making as much money as they used to. It's a pretty simple problem, right? A equals B.
That is not definitely a correlation.
Well, no, but at the same time,
what you want to see there.
Where they're spending money. Here's the thing: you got to pay attention to where Square Enix is spending the money. It's not on their products. It's not on their development. They're spending money acquiring studios in an era where everyone is closing them.
Yeah, and we're not trying to say that the removal of turn-based is the reason.
And it's not because they're making good products.
But it's one of.
It's because they're a legacy brand that still has money from when people thought they were a good company.
When people did give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been a slow decline, and it's been painful, and I know that's going to hurt some of our audience to their core to hear. But it's fucking true. They have... listen, I think you can make a case. Square Enix up against Game Freak. Square Enix is an example of what not to do from about 2004 onward.
Yeah.
And Game Freak has been doing the same shit since 1999.
And only going up.
And now they're winning. Listen, it's a difference in approach. Both of those series had a decision to make around the same time. And Pokemon did pay for it. Pokemon was not cool for a long fucking time.
Fuck you, Pokemon was always cool.
Listen, I'm saying in the grand scheme of things, Pokemon was not a cool game for a long fucking time. And then they did Pokemon Go, and Sun and Moon was their fastest, hottest selling Pokemon game ever. Young kids were buying it. People our age were buying it. Fucking everyone bought it. On the back of Pokemon Go.
I've seen elderly people playing it before.
And guess what?
Really?
And here's the difference. Game Freak came to us as consumers and said, hey, remember Pokemon? And we all went, oh shit, I do kind of remember Pokemon. There were more people like me who checked out after 1 or 2 or 3 generations.
Yeah, I checked that after Diamond and Pearl was done.
And they were and they were like, hey, guess what? We've got this new thing called Pokemon Go. Oh, that's really cool.
Which is super accessible. So even if you didn't care about Pokemon Go, you checked it out because, I remember Pokemon.
And here you got all your favorites from Gen 1.
All your favorites from Gen 1. And you know what? Pokemon Go as a game may be a little bit underwhelming, but it was a funnel back into the Pokemon franchise.
Yep.
Whether Niantic is following through on good game design or not, fucking Game Freak reaped all of the benefits from Pokemon Go.
And suffers none of the loss. Any problems that we have with Pokemon Go, we put squarely on Niantic.
And here's the thing, is I think, listen, that's a way more economically ethical way of doing business. You're not sloughing the cost off onto your audience. You're saying, listen, we have a brand that is awesome and it will continue to be awesome even if people are saying it's not awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's the dissonance that you kind of have to you have to ignore. You have to be able to filter out what is truly hateful, hurtful shit from a really negative person, and then the stuff that is actual feedback, and then kind of the stuff that rides the line between frustrated feedback, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that there are some companies that they have more adept filters, and they have better ways to filter that out and kind of decide truth from fiction easier. And Game Freak they held their ground. And I think that that's admirable, and it's paid off for them in ways that it has not paid off for other games, because other game developers have gone, oh, shiny, new physics engine. Let's go with that. Oh, wait, that's a new combat engine. And if we go with that new combat engine, that means we can upgrade this. And they haven't figured out, they didn't stop to figure out. They were so quick to upgrading things, to thinking that that's what their audience wanted, that now they've actually found out, well, that's not what we want. We want a good game, because our wallets speak for our sentiment, except when we're being manipulated, like with loot boxes.
But don't worry, everybody. I'm sure FF16 will be great when it's developed by Yoshi P. If you want more on that, tune in to Limit Break Radio later. So, Moira, Overwatch's 26th hero, has become available across all platforms as of this week following a successful testing period. Her main move is to release a cone of energy that heals teammates, while her alternate attack drains the life out of an enemy.
So, have you been on the PTR yet?
She's live now.
Yep. She's off the PTR.
Oh, she's live.
That's what that
she
announcement
lasted
was.
1 week on the PTR and then
She
just
is
shipped her out.
live.
Holy shit, Blizzard must be confident on her balancing.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
what do you think? I mean, have you guys played her?
I have. I played her. I played with her. I've played against her. I think they hit actually a pretty good balance. She's a very, very high skill ceiling. They actually marked her as 2 out of 3 stars for complexity. I think she should probably be 3 stars.
Really?
Yes, because she's the only healer that you have to deal damage if you want to keep healing, because she has a little gauge that as you heal goes down, and as you deal damage, it'll go back up. So you have to deal damage.
Sure.
And you got to get pretty close to do that, which makes her a very, very easy target to hit.
That's
now, yeah, so I think they got her in a really, really good position.
How about her offensive abilities? Like, because they really made sure to highlight that as a main selling point to choosing the character. What did you think of them?
Still pretty good. I mean, we're going to see how it shakes out a little bit more. Just like Winston and Symmetra, her ability locks on, but it doesn't have much give to it. Like, once you start to kind of get away, it'll break pretty quick. And damage-wise, I think she does the lowest damage out of any hero.
She does less damage than Winston, which is pretty low.
50 damage a second, though, when you're targeting another support, that's not bad. Like, 4 seconds could take out a Mercy.
Yeah. And really, like, it's just like free damage that you're putting on in a team fight, which adds up pretty quickly.
That's true.
And her damage orb does pretty good damage all on its own too, which can hit multiple targets and bounces around. So
the only thing that I'm concerned about, I think the 2 main points of contention is her fade ability, which is like her sort of, get out of the shit type stuff, is on like a 5 or 6 second cooldown.
Seconds, yeah.
It's pretty fast. It basically allows her to sort of bamp forward really quickly. And then the range on her damaging ability is 21 meters, whereas her healing is only like 12 meters. 21 is far.
Really?
That's about
really
soldier
far.
range before he hits drop off damage. So it's pretty good. She's not like, when I first saw her, I thought she was gonna be like a really close range like attacker type thing, but no, she can stay pretty far back when she needs to. So I think she's got a good. She's not like a sniper by any means.
Are any of you thinking about actually taking her up and picking her, like, trying to really learn?
Main her?
Yeah. Maybe not main, but
I want to get good with her, but I feel like I just don't have like the spatial awareness to really make use of her fade ability.
Yeah, see, and not just the fade ability. When I'm playing her, I'm always thinking about, I can be hitting that guy, and I completely forget about healing my teammates. So I rely so much on her damage that if I had another, like a Lucio or a Mercy main healing, maybe, but I think I'll probably stick with my Lucio and Mercy.
Well, hey, chat, we want to hear from you. What do you think of Moira being added to Overwatch? Let us know. Sound off. Are you going to main her? Let us know.
And lastly, Twitch handed out a 5-day suspension to the streamer Trainwreck following an incendiary rant against women streamers in which he called them, quote, goddamn sluts, and accused them of stealing viewers from people he felt were more worthy. This is actually his second suspension, as he claims he received one a while back for rating women on his stream. The whole situation has highlighted a growing backlash following the introduction of the IL category on Twitch.
Listen, this is an overall backlash against bad male behavior that's happening all across our society, and guess what? It needs to happen.
Yeah,
it needs to happen. And I said it last week, but this is a messy process, and there's going to be people that you like and respect that get caught up in it. But you know what? The truth needs to will out. This behavior cannot fucking continue. We've called it out before on this show. Whether it's listening to some toxic 13-year-old hurl sexist insults at one of his teammates on Overwatch, or whether it's been tons of other shit. We talk about Gamergate, we talk about all of that shit all the time, and really the reason that we talk about it is because the culture of silence around this shit needs to break. We said that last week. It's continuing to break, and I think that this is nothing but good stuff. And it's sad that someone like Louis C.K. gets caught up in that net, but if you're behaving badly, you probably have way less to worry about.
Yeah, and spoiler, anyone who's watching a hot girl stream, even if she wasn't there, isn't suddenly going to go, oh, well, I guess I'll go watch this ugly dude play games instead.
Right.
Fuck you. They weren't your viewers to begin with.
Nika, do you have any thoughts?
Being a girl.
Thank you. I wasn't quite certain where that was going.
Well, our other girl isn't here.
Well,
so.
yeah, I mean...
You're the backup girl, okay?
As the only person here without a penis, I mean, I think that your point of view is pretty critical here. So
I am glad to hear people talking about this. It's sad to say that it's become so common that I like when I see this kind of shit now, I just scroll past it because I see so much of it that it's hit a point in my life where I just have to not give a shit, or otherwise I'd be so affected by it that it would be like crippling.
But that's you understand what that is, though, right? Okay, so we've got highly politicized examples of people calling out sexual assault. Roy Moore is probably, I think, the most visible example. And now, in the wake of that, you've got two things that are happening, two things simultaneously. You've got legitimate cases that are trying to come out and talk about the pain that they maybe have been covering up for years or maybe just experienced, but finding a culture and finding an audience willing to hear them out. And what you're also seeing are tacticians that are dragging out people telling stories to continue to muddy the waters and make you become fatigued on the story, on the idea that, and now because that's the reaction that we all have. We go, oh, here's another one. Yep. And then what that does is that allows people like Bill Cosby, like Louis C.K., like Roy Moore to get away with the bullshit that they're perpetuating. We can't become fatigued with it. That's a tactic. We have to call it out for the tactic that it is. And then I think we've got to stay engaged in this. There is going to be dissonance. There are going to be liars, and and time will out the truth. It always fucking does. But there's a couple of things that I've been taught that I legitimately believe, and that is that when someone comes forward saying that they've been raped, that the first thing out of your mouth after a trauma like that should not be a whole bunch of clinical questions trying to get down to the bottom of a crime. That's why rape isn't reported. That's why people, that's why women, well, actually, no, I had it right the first time. That's why people don't report rape, because there's a lot of shame that is attached to it. Mm-hmm. And so if we talk about it, we remove some of that shame. But again, this is very complicated for people to be able to navigate. And the thing is that like a muscle, we're building up our bullshit detectors every single day that we have more and more bullshit set in front of us. I think for a while in this country, we had a lack of bullshit set in front of us. We had a move, a philosophical move in our government towards transparency, towards openness, towards the idea that communication is a good thing. Mm-hmm. And now with the current administration,
what a far cry.
Fucking read between the lines, they've taken the exact opposite approach and they've closed everything down. And all of these things that we thought were protected, like openness, like transparency, we're finding out are not the case. They were not law. There was not enough. There was not enough in that 8 years for law to happen for them to for some of these things to be protected, and they're going to be rolled back, and some of us are going to be really pissed about that. But as long as we learn something from it, as long as we learn something about our system, as long as we learn something about our government, and as long as we learn something about the people who are in control of those things, then I think that we walk away from it smarter and better people.
Yeah,
societally, as a country.
Noah Trevor made a joke that was
Trevor Noah,
was all too real, and he said, "Now when I see a beloved celebrity's name in the news on the headlines, I think to myself, please be dead, please be dead, please be dead."
Oh my God, he's right, dude. That's preferable. I would rather see a celebrity death than to see another celebrity coming out about their bad behavior, or someone coming out about their bad behavior.
You said Louis C.K. was, like someone that you really looked up to. You'd probably prefer him to be dead because then you can still keep looking up to him.
And you know what? Here's the thing, and I'm sure that someone's going to be able to pull out the inherent bias of my statement there. But you know what? Louis C.K. admitted what he did, right? Like Louis C.K. Out of the names that I just mentioned, he's the only one who's owned up to what he's done.
Very true.
Roy Moore hasn't admitted it. Of the people who I just mentioned, I think that there is a slight difference to the people who are responding in a mature, appropriate way, and those who are just continuing to plow forward. And we do have to recognize the message that we send when we elect somebody like that. And we lost sight of that for a long fucking time. And we just voted on like, this guy seems all right. Well, no, they're not. They're not. And because we're not having a conversation about who they really are as people. It needs to happen. So, I mean, yeah, that's a very kind of circuitous way of getting back to and I've done that now 3 times in this episode, but getting back to Trainwreck, which is actually a very appropriate name for his channel. Talking about goddamn sluts on Twitch. Let's just break this down for a hot second, okay? What he's talking about are women who use their attractiveness to be able to promote themselves. Is that a problem?
Yeah, because I can't do that.
Yeah, well, but that's the only argument.
Difference.
That's the only argument you can put forward. Well, I can't do that, so you can't do that. They found a grift in the system. Good for them.
If I could, I would.
Dude, if I could stream with this much of my cleavage showing, right? Like if I could do that and that was at all an attractive quality, fuck, I would do the shit out of that. There's rules.
I'd watch it.
Listen, there's rules that Twitch implements for a goddamn reason. They're rules that we all follow. They can't show any more or less than any guy can. It's just, if you did it, you'd look stupid. You'd look dumb. I feel like I should do that. I feel like I should one day, I should do a stream where I'm just dressed in what a booby streamer would wear.
Titty streamer.
A titty streamer.
Yeah. A goddamn slut.
As Trainwreck would say, a goddamn slut.
I think you guys have forgotten so many moons ago on Final Encounter Cast, this very show, that we had a story similar to this, and we all did the
That's
t-shirt.
right.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Thinking about that.
I forgot about that.
T-shirt bikini.
Roll the t-shirts up. Yeah.
Yeah. We did the t-shirt bra.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. But I mean, let's follow.
Are we doing t-shirt bra? That's
No. But I want to follow this to its logical conclusion, since Trainwreck seems to think that he's got a great idea calling random other streamers goddamn sluts. That we should take, we should take his standard for what people should wear on stream and apply it to the opposite gender. It proves him right, but it also proves that he's a dick.
Super dick.
Yeah.
Asshole.
But he also probably has a tiny dick.
That, it does seem to be like some underlying insecurities that are coming out there.
Oh, definitely.
All the people with micro penises attack women a lot.
Yeah.
Feminist.
I've noticed that. You know what it is? I think that a lot of these like men's rights activists, they all have fundamentally tiny penises. Because when they take off their pants, they get laughed at. Listen, I want to make an appeal. I want to help these guys. I want to help these guys because they're hurting, and
I don't.
And I see their pain is coming out in awkward ways. Okay, I just want to tell you, if you're a men's rights activist and you have a micro penis, it's okay. It's okay.
It is okay.
It is okay.
I'm sure that they make fleshlights in your size.
Someone will love you.
And the women with boobs will still love you.
Someone out there will love you. You got to find out who it is. I can't unlock that puzzle box for you. But someone out there will love you.
You should try sending dick pics. I'm sure that'll help.
With like magnification on it.
Obviously.
Duh. I mean,
get out the paint and draw the red circle around it. It's here. This is it.
Listen, magnification technology in phones can only do so much. I mean,
I'm sure Snapchat will make an enlarge your dick filter for you.
Listen, we can't, not everyone can be Wesley Pipes, okay? Right? Like, we can't all be blessed with a dick that big.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's all for the news. Back to you, Nate.
Well, I don't know how to.
Great segue, Callie.
Yeah.
Just reading what's
I don't really know how to dismount from this bit. I mean, do we continue talking about micro penises or do we continue talking about
microtransact? No.
Oh, Nika for the second week in a row, bringing it back around.
Except she just failed on like the follow through. She's like, and microtransact.
Yeah, because I thought it was a lame pun, but
you gotta have more.
No. You need more.
We have Robbie on the
more
show.
I know. My lame puns. All right.
Yeah. See, that's what part of the learning process about doing a show like this is having bad jokes go over and having people to respond to them and figuring out how to dismount out of even a bad joke.
Failure is good.
Yeah.
Fail forward into the overpining.
I mean, listen. What? Listen, if you need if you want a blueprint of some kind of hope for what you're doing on Twitch, we would be that. Like we have. I don't know where I was going with that. You guys didn't provide me a good dismount, and now I'm flailing.
But you're supposed to lead us.
Yeah. Well, but we get yelled at if we try to lead.
We still don't have any phone calls?
No phone calls.
What the hell? Out of all of that, that's a pretty controversial.
I know.
Well, not really controversial, but it's a pretty hot topic.
I know.
People should call in.
Finally, Countercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. We've got about 15 minutes left in the program. Coming up next, we're going to be playing this week's Checkpoint Radio podcast. And we hope that you stick around for that. It's a great show, honestly. It's one of my favorite podcasts that we've ever done. And there's no railing on the alt-right that happens in there. So, if that's something that you're getting a little tired of, as one of our iTunes comments actually had pointed out that I read yesterday, then you know what? That's fine. You don't have to listen to it because you can listen to today's episode and not be confronted with opinions that you find disquieting to your little bubble. So let's we had a couple of topics planned, but I feel very talkative today. I felt very talkative recently, and I think some folks may notice a pretty drastic change in my energy.
You're gonna talk more?
What was I?
You've already talked a whole bunch already.
I know.
Yeah, that's what he's alluding to, you idiot.
He's saying he's in the mood to talk.
So you're gonna talk more?
I know.
Yes.
It's almost like we have a weekly talk show where we can do that. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So instead of talking about Star Wars Battlefront 2, because I already made all of the best points about that earlier on in the show.
Right.
Let's go ahead and talk about
dicks.
Anxiety gaming.
Oh.
Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, we went to a charity event for anxiety gaming. This would have been what was this, 2 weeks ago?
It was the 11th,
It was the weekend of Extra Life, wasn't
Yes.
it? So it would have been like the 9th.
Yeah. Okay. So we went to this event called Anxiety Gaming, and it was a great event. We had a lot of fun. It was out in Ann Arbor. It was
the 5th.
It was a part of Arbor Esports. Shout out to them. If you're in Ann Arbor, if you're in Michigan, and you want a cool bunch of folks to kind of go play games with, they're very open. They'll let anyone kind of come in and hang out. So make sure you check that out, Arbor Esports. But Anxiety Gaming was attached to the event, and what Anxiety Gaming is this very cool charity, this nonprofit that connects gamers with mental health professionals. And finding out about that charity actually kind of started an internal conversation with myself, and I think it made me really do some gut checks about what I was doing with, Limit Break Radio and Finally Countercast and Checkpoint. It made me do some very difficult gut checks about where I was with some of my own personal relationships. And, I've found that I've been doing a lot of reflecting in the last 2 weeks. And I think I've come to a point, and I think I've decided that I have been depressed for a while. And I think I only know that because I'm now to the other side of that depression. And, part of it, I do want to thank our fans, our listeners, for kind of putting up with it, because the way that, depression works, if you're not a depressed person, is that it can rob you of your work ethic. It can rob you of, your drive, your ambition. And I think it did all of those things. Now, I do not have debilitating depression. I have functional depression. I am a very high functioning depressive. Robbie, okay. I'm glad you're back in, because I want to talk to you about this. If you're willing to talk about it. I don't know if you are.
About what?
We talk about it privately. Depression.
Yeah.
All right.
We're just going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, we're going to put you on the spot. Well, you walked out of the fucking room as I was setting up the conversation. I don't know what you're comfortable with, and I don't want to have to retread all of that.
Oh, that was just because I had to go, man.
Oh, you had to pee or something? What is going on with your microphone?
I don't know. I wasn't sure if that was just me or my headphones.
No, that's you. That's
okay.
Your microphone. That's better. Depression has been a fairly big part of probably the last 2 or 3 years of my life. Like, probably the entirety of Limit Break Radio's run. And honestly, because I think if I have to trace a lot of this back, it was to my big 10-year relationship that blew up and trying to sort out all of the pieces parts of that. Mm-hmm. And I had the hubris to go, I can do it all myself. I don't need help. I don't need a therapist. I don't need anyone to talk to. And it's subsequently taken me 2-3 years to come to some kind of what's
self-realization, resolution, crossroads?
Not even. I don't think it's even that. It's just to even get insight on my own behavior, to have enough distance from the thing I was depressed about. And I'll be honest, it was a relationship. It was a relationship that wasn't working, that I knew wasn't working, but that the other person wouldn't tell me is not working. And so I had to navigate that alone and come to that conclusion alone. That can be really confusing. It can be really frustrating too. Mm-hmm. You're trying to read another person. And I'm sharing this not as an excuse to, say this is why, Limit Break Radio hasn't been as good as it could be, or Final Encountercast hasn't been as good as it could be. I'm proud of everything that I make. I think Checkpoint Radio is amazing. I think Limit Break Radio is amazing. I think Final Encountercast is amazing. But I think that I have improvements to do on myself. So to you guys, to you guys as a crew, I know that I can be difficult to work with. That's tough. And I do want to apologize to you guys for what I put you through sometimes. It's not easy. And don't cut me any slack because, I'm being a nice guy right now. I know how much of a dick I can be. I really do. And sometimes it really takes overstepping the line to give you perspective on like exactly how shitty your behavior is. And I did. Last Tuesday I had that with you guys. In the fucking chat room.
I'm glad you brought this up because I actually wanted to
flip my shit.
But I also want to actually commend you because that wasn't like when you usually flip your shit. Like, yes, you were a little manic, but you still did it in a way that didn't, make me lay there in my bed thinking, oh my God, Nate's gonna fucking kill somebody.
Yeah, but you know what though? I have done that. The fact that I have done that makes me feel bad. And yeah. I'm not necessarily apologizing for the most recent conflict that we as a crew have had. It's sort of like I do kind of recognize that wasn't as bad as it normally is, and that there was some shit that I was able to control.
No, that one was very tolerable.
Very tame, very tame.
Well, it also happened at like 3:00 in the morning,
and no one was responding to you, which is probably
which made it worse. Honestly, like it
made it better for us.
I basically burned myself out on an empty chat room.
Yeah, which is the best way to do
it. And then, but the shitty thing that I started to do was to try to hold you guys accountable for not being there at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, I want to have a meeting about it.
Which I'm glad that you realized.
I'm such a piece of shit sometimes.
That's when we have to bring up, like, Nate, we're sleeping.
I know.
I went to bed at 10 o'clock that day.
Dude, listen, as soon as I was able to, I was operating on I think 3 or 4 days with very, very little sleep. And as soon as I was able to get some sleep and look at the way that I was behaving over those 4 days, listen, I'm glad that I have plenty of people around me that know me as a person well enough to be able to put up with me and know that he's just going through some shit. There's the amount of people that will do that are very few and far between. I know because I had to end my relationship with my psychologist because a little bit of that leaked out and I got pissed at their front office.
Oh no.
I did.
Not without warning.
No, it was totally fair. Yeah. All of my complaints were well justified. I just did not express it very well.
I can attest to that. I've also not expressed myself well in a doctor's office before.
And they just cut you off. They're just like, we're done. We're done.
Yeah, as soon as you say one swear word, then you're
and you know what?
Halfway out the door.
Let me tell you something. And I don't know if this is because I'm just putting a lot of shit together right now, if it's because I'm thinking clearly, not without the depression, but it really connected a dot for me. And this is where this is the thought that we're going to have to end on here for Final Encountercast today. Mental health is a problem in this country. We talk, and the problem with mental health is that it's only a conversation that happens around tragedy. It's not a normal conversation because it's personal. It's intensely personal. It's scary to open yourself up to other people like that, especially when they can make memes of you.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the meme. I don't give a shit. Make the meme of me. I don't fucking care. Share this. Spread this around. If this connects to your heart, spread it around. There's a lot of different ways to share shit from Twitch and more than enough platforms to spread them on. You guys have your own small sphere of influence, and if this connects with you, if this idea connects with you, then spread it around. But because mental health is only talked about around tragedies, we don't meaningfully address it. When someone starts talking about mental health around a tragedy, they're dog whistling. They're trying to get you off of the point that you're on, whether it's a political point about gun control, whether it's whatever. It is a legitimate part of that debate, don't get me wrong, but do not let that obscure what the actual point that people are driving at is. And to do that, it means that we have to have conversations around mental health that don't also include guns. It needs to happen in different communities first before we can have a wider conversation about it. That's what anxiety gaming does. It forces us to have that conversation. And if you're struggling, it provides you resources. That's it. That's my final point. That's my last point. Okay? If guns are a problem, mental health is a problem, but the way that we talk about mental health is more important. Because if it only happens when people die, then we're not having the right conversation.
Yeah, people have to know that it's okay to get help before you reach that breaking point.
Mental health, it happens across the continuum. And when I went into my doctor's office, my mental health professional's office, and I was a little bit wired from no sleep and still trying to function, a lot a bit frustrated with the way that they schedule appointments because it doesn't work for my profession that I'm in, and they stopped working with me, and I expressed myself poorly. They severed the relationship. This is a mental health clinic. Those are 3 signs of someone who is asking for some kind of help. And instead, they got scared and they showed me the door. And that happens far too often because no one is serving as a check and a balance against mental health. There are enough psychologists out there that only want to make a buck off of you and don't actually care about you, that make that world difficult to navigate. I get it. I ran into one myself, and it sucks. But there is hope. There are other people. You have options. Sometimes those are limited by financial options, but there are resources for you out there, and you can find them. I promise you, if you look hard enough, you can find them. Google's a thing. Take it upon yourself to do something for yourself. Stop doing like I was doing and telling yourself that you're a piece of shit and that you don't deserve help. And go get it. That's it. We're gonna end on that thought. Coming up next, here on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio, we're going to have the latest episode of the Checkpoint podcast. Stick around. It is a great conversation surrounding the show Future Man that you can find on Hulu. Want to thank my crew. Callie, even though he's not here. Chris, Nika, Robbie. You guys are awesome. You guys put up with my stupid bullshit. And I want to thank you. And I want to thank everyone listening at home. My name's Nate. Have a good one. Final Encountercast is a production of FinalEncountercast.com, Limit Break Radio, and Bender Media Productions. Today's episode was produced by Nate Bender, Callie Sloan, and Kooky Persona. This show is made possible by the generous Patreon donors of the podcast Limit Break Radio. Opening music provided by Keyboard Kid. More info and music can be found at keyboardkid206.bandcamp.com. Closing music provided by Sobsy. For more info, visit sobsy.bandcamp.com. Final Encountercast and its hosts are solely responsible for its content. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to the latest episode